Well, as we're recording this and talking about it, I think launching this podcast was a magical moment for me. And I'm really appreciative of the team that supported me and pushed me along the way. I'm pretty sure I had 3 meltdowns before we did our first recording. And I was like, no, I can't do it. No, this is not for me. No. And they're like, Scott, you can do it. And, with all things, when you're being pushed outside your comfort zone, there's a lot of resistance. So I'm really glad that the team supported me and pushed me along and just kind of...
Awesome.
Have you ever been bungee jumping?
Oh, yes, I have.
That's what it felt like. It was like push. And it was like, ah! And it slings back and you're like, oh. The information provided in this podcast is for general purposes only and should not be considered personal advice. Always consult with qualified professionals or experts in the relevant field for personalised advice tailored to your specific situation. Hey everyone, thanks again for joining us on an episode of Catching Up with Property. We're really lucky today. We've got my friend here, Richie. He's usually a BDM. I won't tell you for who, but today he's going to join us. And we're going to unpack and maybe look back over 2023 and see what we've achieved in terms of property goals and maybe more set our intentions for 2024. What is our property goals or aspirations for 2024? Now, if you're thinking, why Richie? Why out of all people you could have chosen, why would you choose Richie? Well, I'll share a little story with you. The first one is, well, there's only one. We had a catch up, and during our catch up, we were talking about my business, the mortgage broking, and Richie threw out this really deep question. And most questions don't really make me think about things for too much, but this one question made me sit on it for 3 days. And the question Richie asked was, are you playing to your fullest? And I was like, what the? Am I playing to the fullest? Am I not playing to the fullest? Can I have done more? If I could do more, what would I do more in? And am I actually comfortable with myself where I am and what I've actually produced so far, And I just felt like that question was so deep and it really helped me see where I was and be comfortable with where I was. And that's why I invited Richie. On top of that, he's done Tony Robbins. And this guy, he doesn't look like it, but he meditates.
I meditate.
So thanks, Richie.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I just want to start off that I'm not an expert in this field, nor do I have a degree around this. I'm just someone that was sort of fed up with opinions from friends and family and just wanted more information around how to tackle adversity. So as you were saying, I went to Tony Robbins and, Tony Robbins is the man. He's a great guy. Don't know him personally, but...
he's got big teeth.
Massive teeth. He's huge. He's like a little giant. In the seminar for Tony Robbins, he talks a lot about shoulds, and everyone has shoulds. Like, I should get up in the morning and go to gym. I should eat healthy. I should be more happier. And what he expresses is that what we tend to do is that we have a lot of shoulds. And what he says is we end up shooting all over ourselves, right? So
shooting sounds very similar to something else.
Oh, yes, it does. And what we went through was, how do we change our shoulds into musts?
Into musts.
And, going through 2023 and now we're at the end and going into 2024, it's a major thing to look at what were the shoulds in 2023 and maybe you can turn them into musts in 2024. So I know you were a banker previously. And now a broker. So what was the should that you had and then you turned it into a must?
That's a big... See, this is what I mean. He just throws these questions and I'm just like, oh.
That'll take 3 days.
Yeah. Can we come back to this in 3 days? My biggest should was...
Because you would have thought about it, right? It wasn't just like a...
100%. I was ruminating on it for maybe a while. Most career changes, you don't just click your fingers and move.
Yeah.
Definitely ruminating on it. The big things were, I'm coming to a milestone in terms of my age. I know I don't look it, but I just turned 39. So the big 40 is approaching and I'm just like, do I still want to be here when I'm at 40? And if I don't, I need to move now. That was one of them. The other thing was I definitely wanted to have a bit more balance in my life and in my lifestyle. I felt like I was really probably more geared towards work. Don't get me wrong, I do work hard and I do love my clients, but I think I need to respect family and friend time a little bit more because I wasn't getting out much. And if I was getting out, I was probably too exhausted to engage. So I didn't want that lifestyle anymore. And it became a must. I must move on. I must create a life for myself. I must do this before I'm 40.
That is a big reason to change your should into must. Yeah, well. So Scott, did you set property goals for 2023?
I did.
What were they?
Or not. I did have some goals towards the end of 2022. I had the itch, so it's a bit addictive.
The itch,
and the itch. My hands were getting really, really itchy and I wanted to get my hands on some more property.
Okay.
But at the time I was working full time for one of the banks and it was a fairly time intensive job. If you know who I am, you know that I was a lender and I didn't really have time to do research or anything like that. So I relied on experts to help me execute in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which experts did you look at or rely on?
I used a buyer's agent. So a buyer's agent who had data, who was data backed, and they went through basically the areas, my price range, where I can buy, and pretty much mapped out where I should go next. My intention was to buy 2 in 2023, but I ended up buying 1.
Why is that?
Because I decided to jump the fence and quit my job and open my own business.
Yay!
Open my own business and 1 property. I think that's pretty good.
That's a win. That's a win. And what questions do you sort of ask the buyer's agent? What's the process there?
In that process, it was really understanding where the data is, what they're actually looking at, how they see, like they tell you, we believe XYZ is a growth area. So I want to see the data that you're relying on. Mm-hmm. Why is this a growth area? What are the things that's pitched in that town or that region that's going to drive growth? Number one, for any region, for any areas to drive growth is the economy. You need to see what's happening in the local economy. Are there jobs? Are people on government income? Is there industry moving there? Mm-hmm. Those are the questions I'm asking.
That you're asking the buyer's agent?
I'm asking them, yep.
Okay, so those are the type of questions that everyone should start asking buyer's agents? Those specific questions? Or what happens if you don't know where to start? Like you don't know really what area, you just want to buy an investment property?
Well, that's when you rely on the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
They've got the expertise, they've got the data. You really want to get a buyer's agent that does have the data, and then you want to understand that data. So it's good that somebody tells you, hey, this region is going to grow by blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're like, okay, why? Why is this area going to outgrow or outperform that area? Tell me. What's the difference?
What's like a good buyer's agent? So when I say, for example, for myself, I would like to go buy an investment property.
Yeah.
And say I take this process of seeing a buyer's agent. What things or criteria should I have or standards should I have for a buyer's agent in order to trust their opinion?
Well, first thing, they need to be data backed. So you need to see the data. They should be able to talk you through the data. If they can't talk you through the data, then you're selling something you don't know. And secondly, more importantly than anything, they need to have property. They need to put the money where their mouth is and say, hey, I've done it. I've done this. I've relied on this data and this is where I am now. This is where I was. This is where I am now. And you can see the growth. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't really want to use somebody who doesn't have the experience, right?
So how much property is enough for a buyer's agent? Is like 1 enough or?
I think it depends on your goal, but for myself, I'm looking at building a portfolio. So
okay.
I would imagine you'd need to have at least 2 or 3 for me personally to say, hey, okay. And with those 2 or 3, I'll need to see that you've actually had some decent amount of growth in there in the time you've held it. So
as you were saying, you created your own business and that's why you weren't able to buy another property. Would you say you're happy where you landed this year in 2023?
2023, I'm pretty happy, I think. Career-wise, I've stepped into the next stage of my career. So opening a business, to some may be scary. To me, I've done it before. So it was like, okay, I've done that, been there, done that. I'm just walking into it. But with all things, with any business, there's obviously setup time, there's launch time, and then there's a time for you to actually get that into a momentum mode. For myself, mentally, I was probably saying, hey, I want to be blah, 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 blah. I need to be here. And I probably need to give myself a little bit more grace and say, hey, Just chill. And it's not like I don't have time. I've got time, right? We all have time. But in terms of property wise, I think I'm pretty happy I acquired one of two. Not two, but the second one I didn't acquire, and there's a major reason I gave that one up in order to start my business. So I think in terms of goal setting and achieving, I think I did well for 2023.
What were the challenges in going through PAYG, full-time wage, also knowing that you have a property portfolio, and then moving to self-employed, something that, you know, you might take a dip in your income or something? What's the mindset or the thought or the process that you sort of put yourself through to be okay with that? Because it is stressful moving from something that of comfort and, you know, you're building something, but now you're moving to something completely different. So
I see it as an investment. You know, shifting from PAYG to self-employed, it's an investment. It's an investment of your time, your energy, and your money. And with all investments, you don't yield a return immediately. Giving myself the time and the permission to take the time was probably key.
The permission.
Permission, that's right.
Can you elaborate on that? Or
probably 3 weeks ago, I said to myself, I need to be here by this date. And then I went, oh, no. Then I realized, you know what? I actually haven't said to myself, you can take your time.
So being a bit easier on yourself.
Yeah, otherwise the pressure's on and, you know, things take time. To build a business, it takes time just to build that machine a little bit.
Yep.
And understanding processes, your resources, building your team, etc., etc. But behind that, you also need to be very, very comfortable not making coin.
Not making coin. Yeah.
Not making coin. You may not make coin. You know, you may not make coin for 3 months, 6 months, who knows? But you need to be okay with it, and you need to have at least some level of backing behind you, or some resource to be able to ride out that time, and that riding out is your investment. Right. So
if you were to break it down for someone in 3 points.
In 3 points.
In 3 points to start. So say if someone was in your position, they were working in a bank or a full-time job, they have this property portfolio, they want to continue that property portfolio but move into self-employed. So what are the 3 things you think would be useful for someone like that?
The first thing is, if you can transition. If you can do your job and start your business, then do it. For me, I couldn't, because obviously conflict of interest and big no-no from Big Brother. I'm pretty sure I'll get sued.
You don't want that.
I'm like,
more stress.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The second thing is, depending on your property portfolio, you may need to leverage some equity just to give you that starting capital to start your business, and give yourself at least minimum 12 months to actually turn that machine. The third thing is, if you're building your portfolio with the mindset you're going to resign for your job and build a business on the side after, you really want to be building a cash flow portfolio, an investment portfolio. So you really want to be replacing your income through property.
Through rental income. So that's when you...
That's right.
Okay. And say someone's not there, should they reconsider that decision, or would you still say go for it?
I will say, what's important to you? Do you want the business or do you want the property? You need an income to continue to build your property. If you're jumping into a business straight up, you're going to have to sacrifice that unless you're smart at structuring certain debts. Then maybe you can continue to build your property portfolio, or maybe you'll be smart and you may want to go into joint ventures.
Right.
Yeah.
What were the magic moments of 2023 for yourself?
Ooh. Who wrote these questions? Far out. The magic moments. I don't know if I'm allowed to share this one. So this is when you're like, if you're into law of attraction, universe.
Oh, I'm into that, yeah.
And you're looking for signs.
Yep.
Right? And sometimes life just gets really hard, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're trying your best and life just gets really hard. And then you're just looking for signs, and anyway, things happen. And then the day I resigned from my job, I was in buyer's remorse. So buyer's regret, resigner's regret rather.
Yep.
And I was like, oh no, was this the right decision? Should I have done it? Should I have not done it? And when the day I resigned, I walked out of the bank, the branch. I went to my car and then picked up my car, and I was driving back out through the laneway. And then just where the branch was and the laneways here, there was a beautiful rainbow. And it couldn't be any brighter. I was like, oh, I like rainbows. There might be a unicorn on the end. So you know what? I think that was a magical moment for me this year. The day I resigned, I was like, emotions were very mixed up, and I think that was a big magical moment for me.
So in that moment, was it a complete shift of regret to sort of gratitude or feeling accomplished because you saw that rainbow? Or
there was no gratitude, but more I felt like I was on the right path, like I've made the right decision. And man,
that's a good story.
The sky is smiling with all these colors.
Great. Okay.
Rainbow flag.
And what were the other moments?
The other moments, man, you're asking.
Well, this is about 2023, so going into 2024.
Well, as we're recording this and talking about it, I think launching this podcast was a magical moment for me, and I'm really appreciative of the team that supported me and pushed me along the way. I'm pretty sure I had 3 meltdowns before we did our first recording, and I was like, no, I can't do it. No, this is not for me. No. And they're like, Scott, you can do it. And you know, with all things, when you're being pushed outside your comfort zone, there's a lot of resistance. So I'm really, really glad that the team supported me and pushed me along and just kind of...
Awesome.
Have you ever been bungee jumping?
Oh, yes, I have.
That's what it felt like. It was like, push. And it was like, ah! And it slings back and you're like, oh...
I'm fine.
Okay, I'm here.
I'm alive.
We're still recording.
Is there a time in 2023 where you felt you weren't playing to your fullest?
This is your question.
Yeah, it is.
Just to give you some context.
Yeah.
This guy asked me this question over lunch.
First meeting ever.
And I was like, what do you mean? And I walked away from that lunch for maybe the next 3 days going, am I playing to my fullness? Am I being a, scaredy cat?
Yeah.
Am I like, it really required me to dig deep. I wasn't in turmoil, but I was like in my head going, am I actually playing to my fullest? Can I actually do more? If I can do more, what could I have done more? And my short answer to that is, I think I am playing to my fullest. I can absolutely do more. One of the key reasons of coming out and building my own business is I want lifestyle. And lifestyle doesn't mean I'm not working hard. I am working hard. I am hustling. I am doing all those things. But also, I don't want to be tired and I don't want to be working 7 days a week. So I respectfully in my head said, there's a time where you have to say, hey, that's enough for you for today. You need to reset and be on your A game for tomorrow. Because if you burn yourself out, no one's going to do your job for you. This isn't like Big Brother where if you don't turn up to work, there's like 100 others, it's just me.
Yeah.
Me, myself, and I. So I think I respect that. I respect my limits now. I think in my 20s, I would have like pushed through and really tried to do many things across many, many hours. Mm-hmm. But also I think I have the benefit of building a business before. So I know kind of where I need to focus my efforts. I know what I need to do.
Let's talk about 2024. Do you have any goals for 2024 for property?
For property, I do.
For property, yeah.
Even though I can't borrow.
What's the goal? What goals do you have?
So if you've been following me, then you know that I have a country property. We're getting a DA on it. So I'm hoping that DA actually materializes, finalizes. And once I get that DA, then I think my first priority is to flip that one off. Mm-hmm. And my thoughts around that is I may want to swap it out. So do a security substitution and maybe something that's in a slightly better growth area with a bit more rental return. So I might be considering swapping that one out for 2024. And I may consider what I might do with my Penrith property. So that Penrith property sits in an R3 zone. It's on 807 square meters, 16 meter frontage. So when I bought it originally, we could put townhouses. I missed a boat on that. But I think I'm going to come to a point where we need to maximize the use of land there. And that might be in the way of maybe an NDIS project or maybe a co-living space. So
with co-living spaces, I'm hearing this a lot, especially in my field. What are your thoughts on co-living spaces?
Co-living spaces, I think, just from my personal experience, from what I'm seeing at the moment, look, my parents separated and then my dad moved out. He's a 70-year-old man and, 70 years, you don't have much assets, don't have much income. He's got Centrelink. His options were move to his friend's house, which, one of his friends lets him board there, or he can find his own space. Now, when he finds his own space, he's got to pay rent for a 1-bedroom or a studio. Yeah. But most people don't want to stay in a studio. You're paying full rent on that. And that can be very, very expensive for a single person at that age. The cost of living becomes a problem. So I think co-living space resolves that problem. It gives people a sense of community. It's not quite a boarding house, but kind of like similar boarding house. Each room, you have your own lock to your own room. You have your own ensuite. You have a micro kitchen, and then you have communal space. So you have a communal lounge room, TV, communal kitchen, communal dining room. So it's really to encourage people coming together, but who are living in the same home. So I think it solves that problem. I'm just giving an example of my dad, but there are many people in that situation. And I think from a social aspect, I think it solves that problem. Cheaper rent, you've got community, you've got a social aspect as well.
If people are looking to invest into that type of property, what would you suggest the things to look out for?
Good question. I don't know.
Because I'm actually looking at co-living spaces.
I know, we were talking about that.
Because residential property right now used to be a thing that everyone spoke about, like buying property or developing or buying big block of land with a dwelling on it and then building a granny flat.
Yeah.
But now people are starting to talk about co-living spaces, buying within your SMSF. That's a hot topic right now. What are your thoughts on that? There's been like a mindset shift on investing in property, not just looking at the residential.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree. So just back to the original question, what are the things you need to look out for in a co-living space? Obviously, in these types of property, you're having multiple tenants in one house, yeah? So you'd probably want to get your agent or whoever it is to triage those people. You want to make sure that people are going to play nicely together. You don't want to have issues. You don't want to have behavioral issues in there. It's just not a nice environment. The whole idea of co-living is that single people can come together and live together, have their own space, but also kind of build this network of friends where they live, making sure you've got the right tenants that play nicely together. I think that's the number one thing. But secondly, to co-living and the mindset shift in property, absolutely. There is a mindset shift because people are chasing yield. People are chasing more rental return. Why wouldn't you, right? If you're investing in property, that's why you want.
Yeah,
you want
maximum. Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, it's very hard for somebody who has nothing or no deposit to get to that point. You kind of need to build yourself up. So if you've ever played Monopoly, you need to acquire, you need to grow that portfolio before you can build the house. And after you build the 4 houses, then you can build that hotel, right?
Right.
So same thing in life. You need to kind of build your asset pool. You need to kind of level up and get to that point where you've got the equity position to get into those types of properties that can give you that type of rental return.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And buying within SMSF, what are your thoughts on that? Because that is a hot topic. So.
Ooh. This is not personal advice.
Just your thoughts on like the shifting of the market. So obviously borrowing capacity has gone down and interest rates are going up. More people are looking at different options of creating wealth.
Yeah. Self-managed super fund is a great tool to manage your own investments for your retirement. And I hear both sides of the arguments, yeah. So one side of it is when you pull all of your super and put it into one SMSF and buy one asset, you're not diversified. So you're not spreading your risk. Again, this is not personal advice. You're not spreading
financial
your risk.
advice.
Yeah.
Just discussion.
Yeah, just discussion. Just for entertainment purposes. Yeah. You're not spreading your risk and you're not diversifying your assets. You're putting all your eggs into one basket. Now, what does that mean in economic crisis or if we have a health crisis again? We don't know, right? You could be risking that one asset. Mm-hmm. But also in Australia, we love property. Property is one of our major asset classes. So a lot of people just want to do that as well. My one thing to anybody who's wanting to invest in property in SMSF, you need to, like anything in investing in property, know your limits, know what you can borrow in your SMSF. Usually it's less because when we're looking at your SMSF's income, it's only based off your employer contributions in your payslip plus the rental return. Mm-hmm. So if you add those two together, it's not actually a lot of money, you know, so you do need have a bit of a buffer there, but just map that out first, figure out what your borrowing ability is, and then go into which asset and what price range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're like, that was a long-winded answer. Could you
questions?
Could you give me that in 3 seconds?
Do you want to ask me questions as someone that is looking to buy an investment property but hesitates?
Yeah.
Like, because when we were discussing before we were doing this, you were like amazed of the chain of thoughts that I was going through, like hesitation and, you know, having a full-time job and then getting all this commitment. And then it was like a different language to you. So
Yeah, 100%. Like when we were talking in the kitchen before, we were talking about investments.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you have any investments? And you were like,
No.
I'm like, why not? I feel like I'm being like the Chinese uncle. Why not? And then you were saying...
Yeah, I was going through all the chain of thoughts that I and, you know, a lot of my friends in my inner circles sort of go through, is the whole joy of wanting to buy property and building wealth and then one day retiring and then going with just relying on the rental income and that's it, happy days. But the thing is initially making that first decision. So with an owner-occupied property, you're thinking, you know, family or your own space. You can start gardening because parents won't let you or something. Whatever the reason is, for sure that you're going to get an owner-occ without thinking about it too much. But when it comes to an investment and you're going through all these things about talking to buyers agents and stuff like that, like that's a lot of information that, you know, first-time investment purchaser is taking in, but still wants to do it, but there's just an overload of information and there's no like clear-cut sort of way.
Yeah.
There is, but there's just so many ways. Which one do I take? So that's what we're discussing. And you were just sort of amazed of how can someone think about this in different ways and just buy it.
I think I've never stepped in your shoes.
No.
And I'm like, oh. But yeah, so I don't know, for a first home buyer who hasn't purchased your own home yet, what are the fear factors that makes you not want to buy an investment?
The fear factors. I think one is it the right property? I think that's the thing that I think about the most. Is this the right property? Like, is this going to get me the yield that I want? Is this going to have the growth within the area? I can look at different things like schools and shopping centers and public transport, but is that enough to make this commitment? And if I make this commitment, would it hold me back from making other decisions or, you know, taking opportunities? Because obviously you got to think about what your commitments are in paying your mortgage. So those are the things that sort of pull me back. It's like, all right, go, but these other things and I can't live my life or something. It's sort of that battle. So
yeah. So what I would say to that is you obviously invest in property because you see it as an asset class, and you invest in property because you eventually want to use that as a source of income, or a source of income to replace your income, or a source to level up. The difference between owner-occupied and investment is investments, obviously, and again, not
financial advice,
not financial advice, not personal advice, and I'm not an accountant, although there may be an accountant upstairs. You know, when you're buying your investments, you have tax deductibility. When you're buying your own home, you don't have tax deductibility. That's one thing I look at. The other thing I would consider was also your purchasing price range. So when you're buying your own property in Sydney, what do you want to buy, where do you want to buy, and how much do you need to spend? We know Sydney right now, I just saw it yesterday, so median house price is 1.4 million. 1.4 million, that's like... like 1.4 million buys you a house that's like falling apart, you know. And then you kind of go to the other side of it and you go, well, if you're going to buy property and you're going to buy investment, you don't have to live in it. It can be tenanted. You can buy anywhere, and you can buy in a much more affordable price range that's potentially in a growth area that has growth metrics. Why wouldn't you? You know, potentially for that 1.4 million that you were going to spend on your own home, you could get 3 properties and you could potentially ride the wave or have growth in it. And then you've got options in maybe 3-5 years time when equity's already grown. Yeah.
Right.
If you're worried about income, you know, you'd really look at areas that probably can be just neutrally geared, and neutrally means you're probably just paying a little bit in expenses there. So you're not outlaying out of your pocket. And then on the flip side, you know, you want to move out of home and you don't want to deal with your parents or in-laws. Yep. You can rent. You know, I'm renting, I'm investing, and it's It's not a problem at all. But my one word of advice is when you do rent, just like buying a house, rent within your means, you know. Don't go for the 5-bedroom house with a swimming pool, and that's still pretty expensive. That's going to hamper your budget quite a bit.
So rent investing is okay.
I personally do it. I don't have a problem with it. I think in one of the episodes we interviewed a property agent, David Reeves, and when he first started, his gem was when he first started his investment, his buying, he also started as rent investing. He's an OG, yeah. So, so if you're thinking back in his time, he did it, and it worked for him, you kind of go, maybe it might work for you as well. So do you have any other hesitations that stops you from wanting to acquire an investment property?
I think it's like knowing where to start. So you said knowing your borrowing capacity and then break it down into different things. When I listen to that, I go, yeah, that sounds simple. But how do you actually do that? Like, how do you go straight to the bank, or do you speak to? You
speak to whoever your financial person is.
Okay.
So whether it's your mortgage broker, if you don't have one.
This was a segue into that's all your business.
Yeah. And just find out what your borrowing ability is and workshop some scenarios. That's the first thing.
What scenarios should be workshopped? So you were saying different areas. When I hear different areas, I think rural, I think inner city, I think in the city. Where should someone sort of look? Like, is there a starting point? Like, a lot of people look at vacant land. Is that a thing? Like,
well, vacant land's going to cost you money, so you're going to end up paying a mortgage with no rental income.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say vacant land unless you're specifically doing land development. And land development is completely different ball game. You probably need to have a bit of a portfolio so you can ride on the equity, or you need to be cashed up. Or if you're in that, you can find a JV partner who can do that for you. But you definitely need to know where your borrowing limits are. Borrowing limits will determine where you can buy and what you can buy. After that, then you go into your areas. I would say, as somebody who hasn't got an investment property, you know, knowing the areas is difficult, right? And everybody's going to say something to you based on what they're trying to help you with. And this might be counterproductive, but as a first-time investor, my take is you should research the market yourself. You should try to get all the data you can, all the free data. There's a lot of free data out there. Everybody has the next hot spot suburb. Read it, understand it. Everyone's going to tell you something. The thing is, you need to be comfortable with what someone's telling you and then executing in that area. If you're buying an investment, you want it to grow. So you want to know that it's in a good area or it's a growing area. So what are the metrics in growing areas? Rental market is very, very tight, or there's almost no sales days are very quick. You know, they're exchanging quite quickly, or there's probably no stock. You know, there's just a hold in demand right now. And then you're looking at the economy. So when you're looking at the local economy, you can simply go onto any council's website and look at them and see what projects are being built in. You can Google that suburb, what economic things are being built into those areas, right? Or if they're regional areas, you can go to, most regional areas have an information center for local tourists. Just walk into the information center and say, hey, you're local here. I've done it before.
You've done it?
Yeah. We just walk into the information center. You're local here. Can you tell me what's happening around here? Is there any infrastructure being built in? A local will know.
In a regional area?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Or you go there, you just go around. When you go to the cafe, you just go, oh, hey, I'm just visiting for the day. I'm just looking at some property. Can you tell me what's happening in the area? They'll tell you what's happening in the area.
Is that how you got your first? Was that your first one? Or?
What was my first one? Penrith? No.
The second one?
So
is that what you did? Like
the
for the
third one, I think we bought in Hunter. We went into an information
that's
center.
A good regional place, Hunter Valley.
Yeah. I don't know. We kind of went. It was a bit of a windy path.
Oh, okay. So pretty much any means to get some information around the area will help you calculate if that's a good spot or not.
Yeah, that's right. But you will really want to see first the local area, is it a tight market at the moment? It's a tight market, it's probably going to grow, right? But behind that, what are the economic developments happening in there? Is there any major multinationals moving in, right?
How do you find that information though? Like for...
Speak to locals. They'll tell you.
Yep, okay. Speak to the locals.
Yeah.
All right.
But also on the council's website, they usually say.
So you're saying go there physically, council websites. Is there, say people can't do that, say they don't want to do that. What's another means of getting information?
Here's something I did. I called agents. Call the local agent. Don't call one. Call, 3 or 4, because you want to verify the information. If this guy's saying one thing, this guy's saying the same thing, and this girl's saying the same thing, then hey, their story all lines up, right? So you know it's true. If they're all telling you something different, then maybe that's not really
a good area to invest.
Well, maybe not that, but maybe drill in a little bit more.
Look at different types of information and stuff. Okay.
How do I get someone motivated?
Yep.
Motivation is, and everyone's different. Some people may just want to buy one property to live in and pay that off, and they're pretty happy with it. But if you're not happy with that and you're looking to, file, or you're looking to replace your income, or you're looking to have a better life for you and your family in the future, then you really need to invest in the time and energy yourself, right? Everyone's going to tell you something, but you need to be confident enough that what they're telling you is the truth, or it's close to the truth, and you believe in that area. And nobody has a crystal ball. There's lots of areas that people were buying and selling, and they went for peaks and troughs. You just need to know when to pull the pin when you're not comfortable. Don't worry about the market. It's when you're not comfortable, right?
What advice can you give someone that's renting right now and they want to do the rent investing? Say they have $5,000 in savings. What's your advice?
I'd still say you need to figure out what your borrowing ability is. If you don't know what your borrowing ability is, you just don't know what you're going to buy.
So even though you don't have a big deposit, it shouldn't be that. It should be just looking at what you can borrow.
Well, you should look at what you can borrow so you know where you can buy. Once you know where you can buy and what you can buy, then you know what deposit you need. And through the deposit, then there are options. There's family guarantees. If your parents have a property, then maybe you can leverage some of that equity so you can borrow the full amount. Otherwise, you may have to go on a bit of a savings plan and cut some expenses, not go to fine dining, and maybe not have smashed avocado and that type of stuff, and really buckle down and save for that deposit to get you in.
Okay. Do you have any tips for saving for property? Like when you were saying cut back on expenses, that's one thing. But is there anything else maybe you would have done to get a bit more of a kick in your deposit? Or because that's like one of the major things, because property is so high, as you were saying, it's 1.4 million. Like you would need a pretty decent size deposit. So
a couple of things, and this is not for everyone, but you can hustle. You can do a part-time job. You can do something else. The gig economy is so huge now. When I first started, right, that was ages ago, 2009. There was no gig economy, right? Like you can't jump in your car and do a Uber drive. You can't jump on Fiverr and, offer a skill. You can't go on Airtasker and do a task for someone. The gig economy is massive right now. And if you're wanting to build some extra savings, why wouldn't you do something and hustle a little bit? I just feel like, when you do hustle a little bit and you do get that deposit and you do buy that investment property or whatever it is, doesn't have to be an investment property, or you just feel a little bit more prouder because you sacrificed. I feel like there's a generation there that may not know what sacrifice is.
Okay, that's some really good advice.
You're like, oh, I need a sacrifice.
Amazon driver, should I do that?
Richie, what are you going to do on the weekend now? Like, party. Well, you could be a DJ and party. So maybe just we've spoken a lot about 2023 for me personally, my personal property goals. I bought one, started a business. They were my key highlights starting this podcast, key highlights of the year. And I'm really curious and interested to know also, maybe for the audience, what were your 2023 goals? Did you have any property goals, or were you just looking, or were you just kind of scoping the market? Did you achieve what you wanted in 2023, or are you still working on it? And there's no right or wrong answers, right? So I think this is one of my favorite times in the year when we review what we did in 2023. And then we also set what our intentions are for 2024. And sometimes if we don't land where we want, it's okay. Every year there's different energy in that year. That year could be, maybe it was a setting up year, maybe it was an execution year for you. But what's most important, I think, is just reviewing what happened and going, hey, did I land? Did I land okay? Was there anything that stopped me from moving forward? But on the other side of that, I think in 2024, what's our intentions? Let's really take a minute and think about what we want to drive in 2024 in terms of property. If you didn't hit your goals in 2023, do you want to hit those in 2024? Do they roll over? Do you want to change it? Have you come across a new asset type? We spoke about co-living space. We spoke about high rental return properties, commercials, things like that. Where's your mindset now? So I'd turn to 2024 and ask, if you're listening to this at home or if you're watching this, what do you want to achieve in property in 2024? If you've been listening to this episode, it's really heavily focused on what happened for you in 2023 and what do you want to achieve in 2024 in terms of your property goals. If you're looking for a bit of support in building that property goal for 2024, and if you're looking at taking action in the next 6 months, reach out to me. I'm looking to maybe help 10 people achieve that in the first 6 months. So reach out, drop a comment, DM me, call me. I don't know. What else can you do? FaceTime me, anything me. And I'm really keen and interested to help you along your investment property journey. But I think for this episode, that's a wrap. Richie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And if anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
For a chat?
Yeah.
LinkedIn, just LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is his platform of choice.
Is my platform.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. We hope to see you in the next one. Bye.